Well, hi, I'm Jay Arthur, author of Lean Six Sigma for Hospitals and QI Macros. And I want to, if you're quality improvement, you've probably heard the phrase zero harm, or you may have heard about the IHI's $1 trillion prescription. And they set this big, hairy, audacious goal, a BHAG, to systematically and proactively identify and eliminate 50% of all non-value added waste in the U.S. healthcare system by 2025. Now, here's the deal. Most people think that's impossible. And I don't. But I think one of the problems is almost everybody hesitates to get going because they're not sure how to go about it. And I want to share with you how you can get that done and do it easily, I believe. So, Shigeo Shingo said, your business is like a banana. It's 46% waste. And so that means in healthcare, there's a tremendous opportunity to get rid of the waste, rework, and lost profit and patient harm and all that other stuff. And I think many people are afraid that if we do that, then there's so many financial problems in healthcare as it is that they'll all go bust and there'll be nothing left to do. But I disagree. And the reason for that is I believe there's a huge unmet demand for healthcare that's fast, flawless, affordable. And if you can deliver on that, I think everybody can really jump in and say, "Oh yeah, I'll come to your hospital. I'll come to your healthcare facility because I know I can get what I need in a timely fashion without a whole lot of wait." So the IHI, currently the estimate is that we spend $3 trillion a year on healthcare, and $1 trillion of that is actual waste, rework, over-testing, patient harm, and then you have to take care of the patients because you harmed them and you don't get paid. So these are all the opportunities that are sitting out there. And if we do that, guess what? It'll start to reduce the national deficit. It'll pay for universal health care. It'll do a lot of things. So I think this is a tremendous opportunity. And the way we're going to do this is most people are familiar with what's called Pareto's rule, that 20% of what you do causes 80% of the patient harm, waste, rework, lost profit, whatever it is. And so consequently, we've seen that. But in my experience, it's a little bit deeper than that because Pareto's rule applies within that first 20%. So as little as 4% of what you do produces over 50% of the mistakes, errors, waste, rework, and whatever. So you don't have to fix everything in your hospital. You only have to find and fix the 4%. Now, I've found a lot of people are kind of going, well, I'm waiting for the IHI to tell me what to do. No, it's just not possible. All right, and here's why. Because every healthcare facility is sick in its own way, just like patients. They all have their own underlying chronic conditions of, problems with systems and procedures and protocols and all the other stuff. And every hospital is built differently, from the tiny rural hospital to the giant metropolitan hospital. So what's wrong in your hospital is probably not what's wrong in another hospital. So I want you to get this idea that if we can take some tools, narrow the focus, pinpoint what to fix, we could get that 50% bang for the buck. Now, sometimes people don't understand 4%. What's 4%? It's 4 steps out of every 100. 4 steps out of every 100 in healthcare. So maybe it's only 1 step out of 25. You only have to find and fix the 1 step. And I call that the $1 million misstep because that's where everything's going wrong. So as we think about this, let's start to look for ways to narrow our focus and pinpoint exactly what's going on. And another thing that I have learned over the years is that you don't have to know everything to fix anything. As little as 4% of the tools will solve over half the problems. So you don't have to know everything. You don't have to go weeks of training, right? And I've seen in recent few years, companies have started to discover what I knew for the last 20 years, which is that we can train people quickly and get results and do it in a day if possible. So our traditional training, whether it's process improvement, Lean and Six Sigma, operational excellence, whatever you want to call it, starts with some big binder. And I don't know if you can see over my shoulder, I have some big binders. And, 2 to 4 weeks of training will yield you a belt. And then the belt goes off and works on a project. And sometimes that project takes somewhere between 4 and 16 months. Well, guess what? We can't wait. For those of you who experienced the pandemic firsthand, you probably found dozens, if not hundreds, of ways to simplify, streamline, and optimize how you deliver care so that you can get more patients in, through, out, whatever. Does this make sense? And, I saw one consulting team say, well, Six Sigma projects take 4 to 18 months. No, I'm sorry. You can do things quickly, and I've done them in a matter of days. So all you need are what I call the Magnificent 7 tools. So you're going to need some value stream maps and spaghetti diagrams, and all you need for that is the advanced technology called a Post-it note. And we're also going to need some Post-it notes about arrows, because it's not the arrow, the activity where things get delayed. It's the wait time. It's what the patient is doing. And so then you're going to need some control charts to monitor your performance. And a lot of people are afraid of control charts, but you don't have to be. They're just easy. You can draw them with software like QI Macros. All right, and then you'll need Pareto charts or histograms, fishbones to do root cause analysis, and some matrix diagrams. You can find out more about that on our website, and we have lots of free resources out there. Recently gave a presentation to the Arizona Association of Healthcare Quality, and they were just astounded by how much free stuff we have out there to help you solve these problems. And there's one other tool that's been missing at virtually every training I've ever seen, and that's a pivot table. And pivot tables are how we summarize data, and then from raw data we can summarize that and turn that into improvement projects. And I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. So I've noticed that people are starting to get more agile about Lean and Six Sigma. So Christus Health, Novartis, Crayola, UL. I saw presentations in the last 2 years at conferences about what they were doing differently. So Christus Health started out, and they did the whole green belt and black belt training and everything else, but they were not getting the kind of results that management wanted. And management said, well, can you do a yellow belt training in 1 day and set it up so we get some results out of those 1 day trainings? Training and results, that's what I want from you. And so what they did was they set it up like this. This is how we hack process improvement, Lean and Six Sigma to get results. So first we have some pre-work. So number one, you select teams that have a real problem to solve and data about that problem. No data, no problem to solve, no training. All right. What we want, right, is to actually go ahead and get people, teed up so that they can actually win in 1 day. And then they did a 1 day training. So they brought the teams, did key improvement on the key improvement tools, and got them to apply that to their data and get them down to doing root cause analysis, figuring out what the countermeasures should be. And then after the 1 day training, go out and implement their countermeasures and see if they get the results they're looking for. Guess what? Whoa, right? This is magical. And they did. This is the funny thing about this. They did. All right? So, and I saw the same thing with Novartis, Crayola, Underwriters Laboratories. Underwriters Laboratories has people all over the planet, and so what they did was they set up an automated online training, and then they had blended learning where they brought groups together. Now, in the pandemic, it's a little hard to bring groups together, but if you do the data analysis, you can get people together on a Zoom meeting or whatever, and do root cause analysis. It's a little slower, a little more awkward, but it can still be done, and I've done it. So this is the process. Some pre-work, pick the right teams that have some real data about a real problem, 1 day training using QI macros, and specifically just lean belt stuff, those Magnificent 7 tools, and then post-work to actually implement those countermeasures and make that go forward. All right, so that's the process. So how do we hack lean? Well, the simple answer is you start by shrinking the arrows. Because you want to make the patient faster, not the doctor, not the nurse. You do not need to make clinicians 1 nanosecond faster. I have what's called the 357 rule that says you're only working on the patient 3 minutes out of every hour. The other 57 minutes is for delay. And if you've ever been a patient or taken somebody to an emergency room or a doctor's office, you know that that's true because you sit and you wait. And then maybe you see a nurse, and then you sit and you wait, and then you see a doctor, and you sit and you wait, and then maybe you have some tests, and then you sit and you wait. And as a patient, that's just so annoying. All right, so how do we do that? We start to shrink the arrows. And so we can use something called value stream mapping and post-it notes and arrows. And I have everybody, write the actual wait time on the arrow, right? The delay between steps in a process on the arrow. And so then people come up with the opposite of that. So once they do this, they start to figure out what's wrong. So here you can see there was a spaghetti diagram done by a nursing group in about an hour. They came up with a revised one in about an hour, and then they went and implemented it, right? They just went back to their nursing unit, rearranged stuff to smooth out the flow. And places like Virginia Mason took all of the crazy movement and stuff, and their nurses went from spending 30% of their time with patients to 90% of their time with patients. It's possible. It can be done, and it can be done in a hurry, using some post-it notes and just getting people in a room and talking it through. I've never seen a nursing unit fail to cut nurse movement by 50%. What does that do? Frees you up to spend more time with patients, right? And so once you spend more time with patients, guess what? Patient sat goes up. Your sat goes up. Everything gets better. So I'm encouraging you, this is a super easy way to speed up delivery of healthcare. And, speed is the healing app. If there's this long delay between getting in and getting diagnosed and getting treatment, and no, that's just not good for your patient's health. So let's talk about how do you hack Six Sigma. Well, we need some pivot tables to summarize data. Then we need control charts, Pareto charts, fishbone diagrams, countermeasured matrices. Then you want to be able to show the before and after, right? Did the control chart actually reduce patient harm? Did we reduce the top type of patient harm? Were we able to reduce cycle time to get people in and out of the emergency room or wherever it is? These are the tools you will need to create a world-class improvement project. Now, one of the things that I do every year is at the conference, I go around and look at all the poster tools, all the poster presentations, and I stroke tally what kind of tools were used on this particular thing. And I can tell you, I've been to NAHQ, Magnet, IHI, it all looks like this. Most of the time, people are just using bar charts and line charts and using them poorly. Run charts have come up a little bit. There's a couple of control charts, a Pareto chart. But in general, y'all are not using the tools of quality. If you're not using the tools of quality, stop pretending you're making improvements. I'm just saying, right? Let's start using the tools of quality so we can make improvements. And then the other thing you have to do is be able to sustain the improvement. And without control charts, you cannot do that. So one of my observations is that most data we see is overcooked. And what do I mean by that? Well, it's been summarized to death, right? So here's something, deaths over a type of surgery by quarter. There's just no way to figure out what the root causes of the deaths are. Some of them are probably medical mistakes that caused a death, right? Not all of them are just the patient died because they were whatever. So what you want to do is go on what I call a raw data diet. What does a raw data diet look like? Well, if you have some data that looks like this was a project I worked on some years ago. By admit date, we can see the denied charges. So this particular hospital system was losing money, over $1 million a month, to denied insurance claim. That means you don't get paid, period. Right? And so it's a little bit hard. We have different kind of codes and different kinds of stuff in here. And so how do we summarize that and turn that into something? Well, essentially you have to know where it happened, when it happened, and what or how much. And if you know the when, where, what, how much kind of things, then you can figure out how to go about fixing it. You can pinpoint what to fix. And in this case, it was worth $5 million a year. I don't know about you, but you can do a lot of things with $5 million a year in a hospital system. So to do this, we're going to need a little data mining wizardry. So we need to take that raw data and use pivot tables to count and categorize it. So we're going from raw data to summarized data, and then we're going to take the summarized data and turn it into control charts, Pareto charts, and action. All right? Now, in the QI macros, this is pretty easy. So the QI macros are an add-in for Excel. So we add a toolbar onto the menu up here. And for things like, if you have things like falls per 1,000 patient days, and you click on Control Chart Wizard, it'll go out and pull up a control chart. And here you can see we have a control chart, and it looks like we had some out of control points in red, and a downward trend where we might have made an improvement. And then you can take things like this, and we add another chart menu on here, and you can show process changes. And so it'll calculate your process change. You have to be able to show the before and the after. And I look at a lot of these poster presentations, and it is unclear with bar and line charts whether there was an actual improvement. Most of the time there's not. And I can't tell you how many people I see taking, pictures of improvement stories like they're going to run back to their hospital and implement whatever they saw there, but their improvement project is bogus. So I'm sorry about that, but that's true. But let's get back to doing some data mining. So if you open QI Macros sample data, we have some sample data out here. And we have one called data mining. And so here's an example of patient harm. So by date, if we know what unit it occurred in, what type of data was in there. Now I see people out there going out and counting the number of times the word patient fall happens in here, like they're using an abacus. That's unnecessary. So all you have to do is select two headings, and we add a data mining wizard. Now the data mining wizard, I used to take this kind of data and do this manually, and it took me 3, 4, 5 hours, sometimes 3 or 4 days to do the analysis. So I made the software do it for me. And so the data mining wizard will take that raw data and then do pivot tables and turn that into control charts and turn that into histograms or whatever else is in there. And in a matter of a few seconds, as you can see, it'll spin out what it found. So here you can see we have it found two different projects in that data. Gave us a control chart, and then 2 different levels of Pareto chart, and came up with a fishbone diagram and a problem statement. So down here to the right, you can see we have unit by date. So here's our patient harm by date. It's 8.5. And then we look in, and it turns out that Unit 3 has 53% of the total patient harm. And then within Unit 3, patient falls were 39% of the patient harm in Unit 3. So that's helping us narrow down, right? So it's not everywhere. It's in Unit 3, and the type of harm is patient fall. And then the software will build a fishbone diagram. So during whatever, patient falls accounted for 40% of Unit 3 patient harm. Okay, so that tells us something. Now, the data mining wizard up here, right? This thing won't stop at 1. It keeps going. So it's going to go look at by unit type of harm. So here's our falls. Again, falls are our biggest type of harm. And within that, Unit 3 is 79% of patient falls. So patients fall the most there. And I talked to one nurse, and she said, this is absolutely true in our hospital. We did this analysis exactly the same way. And we found out it was men between the ages of 20 and 40 and the orthopedic surgery recovery unit. And those people were the ones that were falling most because they were just too stupid, they couldn't get up and run around after surgery. But then it'll spin up another problem statement. So Unit 3 accounted for 79% of patient fall harm. Now, what this does is gives you an ability to very quickly narrow your focus using raw data, pinpoint what needs to be worked on, and it also then tells you exactly who should be on your team. Never pick a team before you have data. That tells you where to go because you're going to waste a lot of time. I've seen this too often. You just get a bunch of people together and they all want to run off in different directions. I call it the 100-yard dash for the directionally impaired. So it's much better to let the data lead you to what needs to be fixed. And then this is, again, that one step. This is the $1 million misstep, right? This is where it's all going wrong. Go fix that. Just that. That's the only thing you have to fix one at a time. And you can very quickly get that 50% reduction in waste, rework, and whatever else in your hospital facility. So that's the data mining wizard. And it does all of this for you. And so could you accelerate what you do in terms of solving problems in your hospital or whatever? Absolutely, using these tools. So these are what you need, right? Control charts, Pareto charts, fishbones. If you're going to reduce cycle time, you might need a histogram instead of a Pareto chart. Then you need to be able to show before and after. So we actually reduced patient harm. We actually reduced the top type of patient harm. So if we fix patient falls, it should fall to number 2 or 3 in this thing, and we can go back and work on the next big bar and keep collapsing until we get to zero harm. And there are hospitals out there that are achieving zero harm in terms of hospital-acquired infections, blood transfusion errors, things of that nature. So this is going on. You might want to jump on the train and help out. And another thing I want you to think about is, how do we hack Six Sigma training? Well, we used to teach people all kinds of stuff they didn't need to know to solve problems they don't have. So you don't need to know the formulas. The software knows the formulas. You do not need to know decision trees, right? You don't need to know all that stuff to pick the right chart or do whatever. The QI Macros wizards will help you solve problems quickly. And, again, we want to go back in and apply this to everything, right? 4% of what you're doing is producing over half the waste and rework. That's why it's possible to achieve that 50% reduction, because we don't have to fix everything. We just have to figure out exactly what's going wrong in your facility and then fix that. That's it. Now, I want to show you one other thing, because I'm going to close this for a moment. One of the other things we have are fill-in-the-blank dashboards. So, under instructions, we have just the whole thing here. Now, what you want to be able to do is to track in your software, and again, that's back here under control chart dashboards, that what you want to do is be able to track all of your key indicators. So the Joint Commission back in 1999 said, "Thou shalt track thy core measures with control charts." And so we built these dashboards to help people do that. And we've seen people reduce the time to manage all of those, go from 3 or 4 or 5 days down to 3 hours. So it's pretty simple. So all you need to do is put in a title. So this might be patient satisfaction. Wish I could type. And then this might be injury rate. And so we have all of our data in here, and you could do many more of these. I'm just giving you a couple. And then we have some fill-in-the-blank templates. And so here's our control chart templates, and they automatically update. And down here you can see we have a little next button. If I click on next, it'll go over to injury rate. And then when I'm ready, I can click on the Create the Dashboard button. And what it'll do is go out and make copies of that template for each one of your indicators, and then build an entire control chart dashboard for you. So here's our dashboard. We have now patient sat and injury rate. And so we could track this over time. And then next month you come back in and you type in the new numbers, and maybe patient sat went up to 89, and our injury rate went down to 5.4. And what we can do is hit refresh charts. And you can also refresh with stability analysis to see if there's anything going out of control. But as you can see here, this one went up, this one went down. So that makes sense, right? But this is a way to actually monitor all of your clinical indicators, keep track of them, and if something starts to go out of control, the QI macros will tell you if something's surprisingly crazy good or crazy bad. And then you can take action. Otherwise, you're just, all these little heat maps and things that you see, well, this month it's red. Well, everybody runs off and chases the red, but maybe the red is just normal variation, and you shouldn't waste your time chasing it. I see way too many people wasting time chasing indicators that haven't really changed. So, that's a little bit about the QI macros. Well, go deeper. Use the 450 rule. Pinpoint the 4% that's causing over half the waste and rework. And you can get to zero harm. You can get to that $1 trillion checkbook idea that the IHI has. Remember, one step out of every 25 is causing 50% of the waste, rework, and lost profit. So guess what? Find and fix that one thing. And then fix the next one. And then fix the next one. And it won't be long before you've cut all those costs. Then your hospital will be more profitable, which means your hospital, will be in the black instead of the red. And guess what? Then you can start to do more and more better things for your patients. So that's it. We're going to use Agile. That's what I call it. Agile, Lean, and Six Sigma. We're going to use some data, QI macros software, a day of training maybe, and focus on achieving some results. And creating what I call a money belt. Somebody who can actually use the tools of quality to save money, save time, save lives, reduce patient harm. This is all pretty easy, but you have to go at it in the right way. So many people are still hugging gut feel and common sense, or they're collecting a whole bunch of data that they never plot. And then the next step is to start to analyze that data. And the data mining wizard will make that super easy. And then we want to be able to show that it's improved, that it got better. And one of my goals in life is something I call hassle-free healthcare. And I don't know about the rest of you, but as a patient, it doesn't seem very hassle-free. My mom described modern healthcare. She says she feels like a can of corn run over a scanner. Can of corn run over a scanner. That's how my 90-year-old mom talks about healthcare. So, I think there's some opportunity for improvement. So, that's the QI macros. Really affordable tools for the statistically challenged. We can help you be radically more productive. I have a free Lean and Six Sigma Yellow Belt training. It's about 8 hours that'll take you through the whole process. I have a free Agile Trainer training, which teaches you how I teach people like this. You can watch that on our website as well. And I have a whole book here, the Agile Lean Six Sigma PDF, which you can download from our website as well. So I'm Jay Arthur. I think this zero harm is a great goal. Hassle-free healthcare, I think, is a great goal. I think the whole $1 trillion prescription, great goal. This is how you can achieve it. And you don't have to break a sweat. You just have to pick something every week, do some data analysis, pinpoint what needs to be done, get the right people together, do the root cause analysis, implement the changes, and see it just improve. And the great thing about this is your patient sat will improve, your employee sat will improve, everything will improve. And the only challenge is for you to go out there, pick up the baton, and carry that out into the world and make that happen. I'm Jay Arthur. Let's go out and improve something this week.